Hi, welcome to my foraging video. This is part of a collaboration, so thanks to Rachel from Spend Smart Live Happy for inviting me to be involved. Homestead Tessie and Springfield Ridge Farm are also part of the collaboration, so I'll put links to their channels in the description box, so check those out and check out Rachel at Spend Smart Live Happy if you've not already done so. So for my video I thought I'd talk about getting started with foraging, why I like foraging, and there's lots of things to like about foraging, especially free food. What's not to like about free food? And there's so many things once you start looking that you can find in your local area that you can harvest for free. I know in Rachel's video she mentioned that it's actually a federal offence in the US to forage. Fortunately that's not the case in the UK. There are a few rules around foraging and there are different bylaws, so I would suggest that if you want to start foraging you check those out for yourself. But for my understanding, the rule is that if you're on private land you should seek permission from the landowner, and you shouldn't dig anything up without permission from the landowner. Anything that you pick should be for personal use only and not for commercial use, and so apart from that you can go for it. So I would suggest that you start with something simple and have a look and see what's around that there's lots of. Today I'm going to be picking some dandelions and making some dandelion wine. So I thought I would show you as well this little foraging kit that my friend made me. So if you're going out foraging, have a bag to take with you. I've got in here a little notebook so that I can make a note of what I find and where, so that I'll remember the next time. And although you're not supposed to pick things up, I have got a trowel, because I have to say that sometimes I don't always stick to that. And you have to make a decision for yourself about whether you are going to stick by the rules or not, and be aware of the consequences if you don't. That being said, I think if you're digging up dandelion roots or something like that, you're unlikely to face prosecution, because most people want to get rid of the dandelions and they don't really mind. So also in there I've got some gloves, I've got some little tweezers, I've got some bags for putting my booty in, I've got some tissues and some water. I can drink the water obviously, but that's for if I am cutting anything that I want to plant on. So if I'm taking cuttings, I want to keep them damp until I can plant them on. I've also got some secateurs, so that if I want to trim off some branches. So for example, a few days ago I took some trimmings from a hazel tree, and I also took some trimmings from an elder tree, which I'm going to pot on and hopefully grow my own plants from those. So this is just a little patch of my garden, and as you can see we've got a few dandelions there and a few dandelions there and a couple more dandelions. There's not so many over there because that's mostly the food garden, but I'll show you over here as well that we've got. This was absolutely covered actually about a week ago, but a lot of them have gone over, and I'll show you what they look like when they've gone over. So these have all gone to seed and the seed heads have all blown away, but there's still quite a few, and there's more down the track. Okay, so when you're harvesting dandelions for wine, you want to have as little of the green as possible. So I'm going to pinch it right at the top of the stem so that you don't get the sap, because the sap makes it bitter. I mean, really I should trim all that off and just have the yellow, but I think life's too short to be trimming all of that off every dandelion. So I'm going to do, that's as good as it's going to get, and I'll see how it goes, and hopefully it will be okay. Another thing to think about when you're foraging is where you're foraging. If you're foraging by the roadside, you need to be aware that there's likely to be pollution in that area. Leaves are usually the most affected by pollution. So if you are digging roots, or if you're taking berries or flowers, they're less likely to be affected by the pollution, because the plant will try and protect its seeds, so it will accumulate those toxins, if you like, in its leaves. So avoid leaves if you are foraging by the roadside. Obviously try and avoid foraging by the roadside altogether, but that's just a little something to think about. Also make sure that the area that you are harvesting from hasn't been sprayed with pesticides or herbicides, because they're not good for you to ingest. But apart from that, have a look. As I said, start simple, see what's around. I've done a few foraging videos about what's growing in my garden, little volunteers that have just appeared, and that's a really good place to start. Look in your own garden, see what's there, find out what it is, find out what it's good for, whether it's edible or medicinal, and you might be really surprised. I was quite surprised at some of the really valuable medicinal properties in some of the little weeds, I suppose you would call them, although I prefer to call them volunteers. Yeah, and they are quite surprisingly useful plants. So start there. Don't try and remember everything at once. Start with easy things that you know. Dandelions, nettles, plantain, brambles are all things that are easily recognisable, and that's a good place to start. Find out the uses for those, have a go, eat something, or make a herbal salve with something and see how you get on, and then gradually increase your knowledge and find new things. And it's really interesting, and you'll be amazed at how many things there are around and about. Hey, I kind of realised as I was wandering along that you can pick out the petals in the bag, and it's kind of not that time consuming. So you can pick out the petals. I've got quite a lot, but I don't think I've got enough yet. I need 2 pints, so I'll continue walking along and picking them. I just was thinking as I was walking along about more of the benefits of foraging. In permaculture, there's a concept that says every element should be supported by many functions, and every function should support many elements. So a function is eating, isn't it? Is food, is having food to eat. So foraging is another element in that function. So another element could be buying shopping from the supermarket. Another element could be growing your own food. Another element could be hunting and fishing. Another element could be bartering. So the more elements you've got to support that function, the more resilient you are. So if one of those elements isn't available to you, then there are others that can pick up the slack, as it were. I think if we only relied on the supermarket for our weekly shop and didn't have any other considerations about where our food came from, any other options for our food, then if something was to happen that meant that that wasn't available to us, and it doesn't have to be a major end of the world as we know it kind of disaster, it could be weather conditions stop trucks getting through, so there's no deliveries, and supermarkets only actually store about 3 days worth of food. So if that went on for even just a week, there'd be no food left in the shops for people to buy, and if you've not got a backup, people will go hungry. So the more elements we've got to support that function, the better off we are. And I think since being off work, being sick and not being able to work, it kind of focuses your attention on how vulnerable that system is. And if we only rely on that system, then, and it fails, then we're stuffed, basically. So having extra skills, having extra resources, having extra ways of getting things that you need just makes us more resilient. And the other side of that is that every function should support many elements, or every element should support many functions rather. The thing with foraging is it's not just about food, so food's a part of it, but I'm making some dandelion wine with my dandelions today, and I don't drink much, so that's not necessarily for my consumption, but I can give that as gifts. So that's a cheap and easy way of being able to share with other people and make gifts that don't cost a lot, but they're thoughtful and something a bit different that people will appreciate. It also gets me outside in the fresh air. I'm sure you can hear the birds singing in the background. And it's a lovely spot. I'll show you around. So I've just been walking down here, and this is just at the bottom of my track from where I live. So the sheep, I actually can't see the sheep from here, but the sheep in the fields, there's like birds and there's little insects. So it gets me out, it connects me with nature. And I often meet my neighbours while I'm out foraging. I can also use those forageables for medicines and body care products. So it's not just about food, and it's not just about foraging, it's about all sorts of things. So that's another really good reason for foraging. So I'm going to get on with picking some more of my dandelions, and hopefully it won't take me long before I've got enough to make my wine. But I'm sure there are worse things I could be doing on a sunny afternoon than going for a walk and picking dandelions. So there's my 2 pints of dandelion leaves. I had plenty, I even had some left over. So I might make a little herbal infusion with those, so which I'll do another video about. So keep tuned if you want to see my video on herbal infusions as well. So there we go, that's 2 pints of dandelion leaves. So I'm going to just cover that with water for now, to see if there's any bugs in there, because what I'm hoping is if there are bugs in there, I'm sure there are bugs in there, they will all come to the top if I put water in there. But I won't leave it for too long, otherwise it'll start to take all the nice goodness out of the petals, which we want for the wine, so that wouldn't work. So I'll just cover it with water, leave it for a few minutes, and then strain it off, and then I'll get on with it. Okay, so here's my wine now. I poured over some boiling water over my dandelion petals and then strained them, and then poured the water into this plastic bucket. And because I don't have a proper wine making bucket, I've utilised a fish food bucket, which I have washed out thoroughly and kind of sterilised. Anybody that kind of knows me, and I'm sure as you will come to realise, I am a bit of an improvisation kind of person. I don't tend to buy anything unless I absolutely have to, so if I can improvise I will. So all that's in there is the dandelion water, some sugar and a lemon. The recipe called for an orange, but I didn't have any oranges, so it's a lemon. I think it's just for the citric acid. I think you can buy citric acid tablets, so I'm sure that will be fine. And then again, because I'm improvising, I've got some baking yeast there rather than wine yeast. So apparently, according to the internet, I have to wait until that foams up to show that it is actually working, and then I can add it to the wine, and it shouldn't really make a huge amount of difference. It's the same kind of thing. It's a very similar strain of yeast. So it is starting to froth, so I'll leave it for a little bit longer, and then when it's got more froth on it, I'll add it to the bucket and leave it a couple of weeks. So what I'm going to do is, with my bucket, is I'm going to cover it in cling film and then just poke some holes in it for the gas to escape, and see how that works. So maybe I'll be back in a couple of weeks and let you know how it's getting on. Okay, so that's my foraging dandelion wine video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you so wish, and look into other uses for dandelions, of which there are many. Okay, I'll see you next time.